America's #1 gospel internet radio station on a beautiful Thursday evening. And this is Action First broadcast with Dr. Wayne McCray this evening. And we are also streaming live on Facebook for those who want to be a part of the show this evening. And as always, we have a special guest in the studio. And tonight we have Assistant Chief Brother David Zanelli. He's in the studio. How you doing, brother?
Very good. Thank you for having me tonight.
All right. It's good to have you in the studio, live in the studio. Let's talk right in that microphone for me. All right. So first of all, welcome to Action First broadcast. And it's good to have a police officer, in the studio, man. We have so much going on in our city. So we just, want to find out from your perspective what's going on and what can we do to help and
Absolutely.
work with the police department. Well, first of all, how long have you been on the police force?
So I've been in the City of New Haven Police Department for about 15 years. I've been a police officer for 17. I started my career in Middletown, Rhode Island, and I transferred around 2006, 2007 to New Haven.
Okay. So first of all, let me just say we have a phone number as well. If anybody want to give us a call, the number is 475-227-2170. That's the number for any comments if you want to give us a call this evening. I'm Jerry Green. And now, how can someone that might want to be a police officer, how can they join the police department?
So we use the policeapp.com recruitment site. So you can go right on there. And if you're a certified police officer, you can click on the certified link, and it's a little bit of an accelerated process. Or you could check the entry-level side for folks that are just trying to get involved in a law enforcement career in the city of New Haven.
Well, how's the training? What you got to go through? Police Academy?
Sure. So the application process, it can be a little bit long as it is for every police department, but there's a background process. It includes a written test, a oral board interview. Then you go on to your polygraph, which is your lie detector test, your psychological drug test. Then you go to an academy. We have our own academy, which runs about 5.5, 6 months. But what we're trying to do is put folks that are interested in becoming New Haven police officers in the next available academy, whether that be ours or what we would refer to as a post-satellite academy. Post is in Meriden. So we just try to seat folks as fast as we can. We're in dire need of police officers right now.
Yeah, I see that. So, but my question, I got to ask this question. Why does the police department get such a bad rap?
I think that, each police department is different. In the city of New Haven, we have a very strong community policing philosophy. And, I think that's what separates us from other agencies. So folks that are looking to tie in and be the changing face of their community in the city, New Haven's for them. There's a lot of challenges here, but we also do a lot of progressive and innovative things in the city of New Haven that'll change that kind of mentality. And I would say that in the city of New Haven, there's always room for improvement, but bonds are pretty strong.
Okay. Okay. Even if not in New Haven, I mean, even, what happened in Minnesota, with George Floyd, and a lot of incidents that happened with the police department in the community, what can we do to try to bridge that?
Sure. So I think that the community involvement is a huge piece. For example, when we write policies for police officers in the city of New Haven, we do that with our civilian oversight body, the Board of Police Commissioners. So they are representatives from the community that have a direct say in a lot of the policies and our operating procedures. And that shows transparency, and that shows that people have a say in what their police officers do and how they do it.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, so far in New Haven, we had about 3 homicides already.
That's correct.
Is any progress in getting these people that did the violence?
So the Detective Bureau has made major leeway on these investigations. In fact, the next couple of weeks, we should have good news on at least one of these investigations, as unfortunate as they are. A lot of the times, these individuals that are suspects in these incidents are individuals that are known to us. And, we believe in second and even third chances. But I think part of the problem, too, is that when you get arrested and convicted of violent crimes, you need to do a little bit more significance of your time than, just 20%. Okay. So we're seeing that they're habitual offenders and they're victimizing people in our community. Yeah, and it's only 1% of these people that commit the violent crimes in the city. But those that do commit the violent acts, those are the few that need to remain behind bars.
Okay, because to me, one of the major questions I always had is, especially with the gun violence, where are the guns coming from? Do you have any idea? Because like I was telling Dr. Wayne, and I was telling you before, we went on the air. I worked at this manufacturing company for 42 years. Every part number that we did had a serial number.
Sure.
All right, and we had to clock that part number out before we went to the next operation. I mean, if that plane crashed, right, they can go back and look up, all right, in their process, and they know exactly what everybody did to that part because of that serial number.
Right.
Do guns have serial numbers like that?
So guns do have serial numbers like that. The problem is we're seeing an influx of what they call ghost guns. Ghost guns come from different states, not the state of Connecticut, and it's almost like a loophole in the firearms law. So those do not have serial numbers. They get shipped to folks in pieces, and then they're then assembled. So that's why they're called ghost guns, because they are firearms, but they don't have that serial number, so they're not able to be tracked. So that's one of the main causes of the influx in guns in the city that we're experiencing right now.
Okay, so but my question on top of that is that that's not coming from a regular gun factory then, right?
No, there's a lot of online sources.
It's like a black market gun.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow, and they can't crack down on where the guns be made?
So the state has caught up. The state has passed recent legislation to make those recognized as a firearm, which is helpful for us. So convicted felons who possess it still get charged with the same criminal possession of a firearm statute, still get charged with a pistol without a permit, but there's a little bit of a learning curve and a catch up with that. The other issue that we've experienced here is sometimes individuals that are pistol permit holders that develop substance abuse habits will come into the city and they will sometimes trade firearms for narcotics. And that is the second way that we see a lot of these firearms, these we would call crime guns, enter the city.
Wow, because it's a lot of guns. How many guns would you say is out there, man? Illegal guns.
Oh,
because they could buy guns like buying popcorn, right? Basically, right?
Absolutely. We ended the year with more firearm arrests than the year prior, and we already started the year with about 10 firearm arrests. And it's only been a week and a half into 2023. So officers are still being proactive. The detective bureau is out there with the plainclothes side. They're making the arrests. It's more or less keeping the habitual violent offenders in custody when we do get them.
Okay. We're speaking live with Assistant Chief David Zanelli. He's live in the studio this evening. The phone line is open at 475-227-2170. We're speaking about the violence that's taking place, and not only just in New Haven. It's happening, always been happening. But I do want to say, Assistant Chief, I grew up in New Haven. I've been here all my life, basically, especially through the 60s and the 70s. And like I was saying, back in the 60s and 70s, it was bad kids. But just that they couldn't get firearms where they get them now.
Right.
So I mean, when did that basically start happening where these kids now can get guns like going to the store and buying guns?
It seems like it's been slowly increasing as time goes on, especially with this ghost gun angle that we spoke about. When I first got on 17 years ago, catching someone with a firearm was almost a rarity, right? It was more rare than common. Now it's very common that these kids have them. And, the ghost gun piece, people have access to the internet. They can order the pieces online. They know how to get the directions to assemble them. So social media and the internet has really fast-tracked how these ghost guns get into our community nowadays.
And you mean tell me, especially on the internet, they can't crack down on that?
So it's different states have different laws. So a lot of our kids from the city, a lot of our citizens that want to get these guns go down south. There's some loopholes that are in the gun flea markets that are down south. That's how they're getting them, and they're coming back up. So they order them from an out-of-state address, and they bring them back to the state.
Well, and I don't want to put you on the spot. Then would you say you got some people that's in power, right, or is working with these people or something?
Well, I mean, there's always going to be suspicions.
I watch a lot of movies, and
sure.
Because the reason I'm saying that because if I went on Facebook or any social media and I talked about doing something, the Secret Service would be in my house in 20 minutes.
That's right. So
right?
we do.
They'll be there in 20 minutes.
That's right.
I mean, even Facebook warned me a couple of times because I just be using the messenger, advertising, promoting my events, and they'll get on me about that. I mean, hey, you're doing too much, blah blah. We'll let you know. So they're watching. Everybody watching everybody, right? And so people know what's going on. So to me, I mean, somebody is getting their hands, they're getting their palms greased or something because, I mean, there's no way you can tell me if someone is doing it, they can't crack down on more of this. I'm not saying New Haven. I'm just talking about in general. In general.
Absolutely. And, that's why we have a strong relationship with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms here. We have officers in task forces just to crack down on specific firearms and illegal firearms trafficking. But it is a challenge. It is a challenge when they use screen names, not their own names. And, they have family from out of state that they use their addresses for where, Ghost Gun Assembly is is allowed in that respective state. So we do take it very seriously, and fortunately that the legislation has caught up that at least allows us to charge these individuals in the state now when they do have them. So it was a little bit of a catch up period, but right now it does give us more tools on the tool belt to stop this kind of influx.
Praise God. Now, what can the parents do to work more with the police department?
Oh, sure. So we have several programs in the city of New Haven that are community based. First of all, we have the Clergy Academy.
Okay.
That's when we have a 4-week program. It's several hours. We come, we feed you, and we basically break down barriers by telling you how we operate. We have an internal affairs segment.
Okay.
So, people, the hot ticket now is how do you make complaints? Where do complaint investigations go? What do they entail? So we try to be transparent about how we investigate officer complaints. We also do a segment on, de-escalation, use of force. Folks want to know why and how we use force and what triggers what. So that's included.
That's a good one.
That's included. We also have a Citizens Academy. So if you're not part of the clergy, but you still want to know these things, we host that once or twice a year, and folks from the community can come down. We also have a very, very active PAL camp. So over the summertime, kids can come. Our SROs run the program. We go there and we play sports with the kids. And selfishly, we also use it as a recruitment vehicle because, now kids from the city are getting to know police officers on a positive note, not through a negative encounter. And, that might spark their interest in following the law enforcement career in their own community.
I just want to jump in there for a second, because I went through the training myself, for the Clergy Academy. I'm also a chaplain. And, and it's a good training for the community because, even for the Citizens Police Academy training, it's where that we understand more what the police officers do now, because they're more social workers than officers. They deal with a lot in the community. And that relationship, like you say, before there is a call, I think that's the better approach now. And I want to commend our New Haven Police Department for all that they do in making those efforts and those opportunities for the community. The community needs to get more involved in this, because this, when I remember, as they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes us all as the community in watching and making sure that our kids are safe, that they can go outside and jump rope and do those simple things,
Sure.
Where that knowing that they can go out in the streets and play and that know that they're safe. I remember as we was coming up, the kids nowadays don't know anything about putting on their play clothes and going outside. That's where we was brought up. And so, it's definitely some of the simple things that we need to get back to. And I like the approach, with the PAL program as well, with the community, because it is activities for the kids and the fun sports. And, there's some things where with our chaplaincy that we're trying to do now with innovation and some other career paths that, that we're partnering to do for the community and give them another approach, because a lot of the kids, because they are with the video games, they're halfway there with some of the things for the FA certification for flying drones that we want to introduce them to, that they need to know the METARs, the NOTAMs, and the cumulus clouds, and the flight zone restricted areas. But, it's really a good thing. And because this year, 2023 is a new approach, and we need to band together if we want our communities to be more safe. Absolutely. I said from the pandemic, we find a new normal, and death is not the new normal. So we want our community to live and thrive and come together and break down the stigma, with the indifferences. It's about humanity. And that's what we're promoting.
Yeah, that's the beauty about something like the Clergy Academy, where we not only use it to share our policies and our operating schemes, but also when a crime of violence happens, we walk with the clergy. And sometimes folks will be more apt to either talk to us, maybe feel more comfortable talking with us when they see that partnership and that coalition approach. So we're very excited about the program. In fact, I was alerted by one of my assistants that, the clergy from New York City is asking to come down and perhaps have us replicate the program for the New York City Clergy Association. So that's something that's underway.
Wow.
So that shows that, word gets out.
Awesome.
And, that's, again, touching back on what we do with our community. We try to be innovative and partnered approaches.
Now, I know you mentioned about a young lady. She had two of her sons got killed in gun violence, and she applauded. I mean, she praised the police department.
It had to be one of the most moving things I saw.
Let's talk about that.
Yes,
because the disconnect between the community and the police department is real bad.
Sure.
All right, and you need a good story, a success story. Just to show people, hey man, I mean, the police department, they're here to help.
Sure. So absolutely, there's always room for improvement. There's always room to improve community police relations. But I would say that in the city of New Haven, the New Haven Police Department, ours are pretty strong. And I reference this example because this woman didn't lose just one, but two sons to gun violence in the city. And as Chief Jacobson and I were there to support her during the funeral services, she could see that, myself and some other officers were upset because every time we lose someone, the police officer takes on their shoulders that they could have done more. The detective says, that's my fault. I should have been more places. I should have done more to prevent this, right? So she could see the disappointment on our face. And here she is, with overwhelming grief. And she basically gets to the microphone in the middle of the church, hundreds of people, Mayor Ellicker's there, Chief Jacobson's there, and basically says, New Haven police officers, this, and I'm paraphrasing now, but this is not on you. We love you guys. We know you're trying hard. We know you're doing everything. And it had to be the most moving experience because she then presented Chief Jacobson with a gift at her own son's funeral.
Wow.
I have never seen anything take place in my 17 years.
Wow. Yes, because it wasn't the police department's fault. I mean, gun violence in the streets that we got to deal with. So, but how bad is the disconnect though? What would you say?
In New Haven, I wouldn't say that it's bad in the city of New Haven, but I would say that we always look for ways to improve it. Okay. So, in New Haven, we do get information from the community. We do. However, it could be better. All the homicides that we have could probably be solved if that one witness came forward.
Okay.
But I think as we take down these barriers of the no snitching mantra that takes place, which is destructive, we have to break down those barriers. And the only way we do that is with these coalition approaches with our community. So
would you say that the average person is afraid of the snitch because they're afraid of the retaliation that might comes back? If someone knows that, for example, if they got to go on trial and this person might be the one that they're going to use to testify against them, is it more like that?
I think there is a fear. I think there is a fear of retaliation. I think there's a fear of being labeled. But you know what? If that was my loved one, I wouldn't have a problem with it, and I would hope that people in the city look at it in that perspective. If that was their loved one, would you want someone to do the right thing?
Right.
And what we try to do is we try to have a lot of we call the survivors of homicide. Right. We have Officer Nancy Jordan, who's from the city. She runs that program. If some of these individuals that maybe saw something but are reluctant in speaking with us, go to one of these meetings, and you'll see the hurt and the suffering that families sustain after they lose a loved one to gun violence or any murder for that matter.
Okay. Now, some of these people that's dying, are they? I mean, I'm not gonna say are they angels? Are some of them are they involved with gangs and stuff?
So a lot of these individuals are individuals that are known to us. We know them to be part of a group.
Of a group or something.
Yep, absolutely.
Of a bad group.
Correct. They're not. The violence is not random, as we say. It seems to be, and we know this through various investigative means, sometimes video surveillance, that these folks tend to know their attackers a lot of the time.
Right. Now, when do police officers use deadly force if they have to?
So police officers use deadly force when presented with a deadly force scenario, when it's necessary and proportional and absent any kind of alternatives. So it's really the last line of force that we use. And in the city of New Haven, we have a very good track record of using de-escalation techniques. But it's tough though, right? We had a police officer shot in New Haven 6 months ago in Fairhaven for just investigating a traffic accident.
Wow.
And, that is probably the most recent example I can give. It was just a traffic accident. He had a very small misdemeanor warrant.
Okay.
And the individual opened fire on one of our officers, struck him 3 times.
So we're speaking live with Assistant Chief David Zanelli from the New Haven Police Department. And like I said, the number is 475-227-2170. Anybody on Facebook Live that's enjoying the show this evening, you can give us a call. That's 475-227-2170. Now, are you afraid to go to work every day? Any fear? Like this might be every day you put on that uniform and you go into the streets. Any fear?
So there's always a little bit of fear. I mean, I'm a police administrator now, so I'm not necessarily
Okay, you're not in the streets too much.
not as much as I used to be.
Okay. But when you first started,
Sure. There was always a fear. But you know what? For me personally. I came to this city, a big city like New Haven, for the thrill. I knew it was busy. It was busier than my old police department.
Right. You want action.
Absolutely. I was. That's exactly right. So I wanted to help people. I wanted to solve homicides. I wanted to stop rapes and robberies and that kinds of thing. So while I always knew, and this was me, I was a younger guy. I got on the job at 21. Sometimes you don't realize the sanctity of some of these things until you get older and you have a better appreciation. But yeah, I would say that recently, with what happened in Bristol, with the 2 officers being murdered, and then with our own officer being shot last year, I think there is more of a concern than in times past. Before, it was very rare for things like that to happen. But just the way the chain of events happened last year in 2022 was a rough year for law enforcement.
Yeah, because go ahead, Dr. Wayne.
Yeah. I was gonna say, with that incident that happened in Bristol, and I seen because I went to the funeral and the support of the police departments from all over the country that came out. The brotherhood. It just showed me. And I have more respect, because, as they say, when the officer is down, that everybody comes, and so it's And so, it's things that I really feel that the more we communicate, the better things would be in our community. Sure. And this is where we at. This is a new year. This is a new beginning. And we are strongly in support of our officers in our community coming together.
Absolutely.
It's time. It's time that we come together, because I believe that we can de-escalate a lot of this stuff before it manifests even more. And it's just taking the people to come together.
Now, let's talk about that young boy, 6-year-old kid that brought a gun to school, all right, and shot his teacher, and they said it was intentional. Yes. I mean, being a police officer, and it's kind of mind-boggling that a kid will get a gun, bring it to school, and intentionally shoot his teacher.
This was the 6-year-old now.
6-year-old,
yep,
right. As a parent, all right, especially the parent of that kid. Right? How would you feel about that? And number 2, what kind of responsibility should the parents have, or the blame, or someone, how the kid got a hold of that gun?
I think you hit it right in the head, Dr. Green. I mean, you got to be looking at the parents. How do they store that firearm?
Yeah.
Right. Does a kid know where the firearm's at? And if so, there's safe storage laws. So, how does a 6-year-old get access to it? I have a 6-year-old, so for me, I have a safe. It's put in a special spot. They know not to go near it. Did the parent leave that firearm out? I'm not all familiar with the facts of the case, but I'd be looking at the parents first and foremost, or whoever the caregiver is in that situation.
Right, because because it's still a mindset that the kid had to develop somewhere to make him get a gun, take it to school, and with the intent to shoot and kill. All right, either the parents were talking about it around the house, because I can't say that. The television shows, really, I can't blame TV too much on that.
Or the video games. Video games. Sometimes these young kids don't know the permanence of death, and they see that because there's no reset button in real life, right? You can't get up, and they just don't understand that because their mind isn't developed enough because they're 6 years old. So the combination of things there could have really contributed to that incident.
But are kids really that bad at that age? Is that normal, or not everyone? But wouldn't you be able to see if a kid, at 5 or 6, that mind is starting to develop, either talk back to the parents, isn't some kind of sign that's there? You guys are parents, right? So, is there a sign that you'll see, that the kid is starting to go, just like I'll give you an example. When I was in Troop Middle School back in maybe 67.
On Edgewood.
Yeah, it was bad. It was the bad school. They had a class called the Jet Class. All the bad kids in the Jet Class. Right? Okay. And we had this one kid. I'm not gonna mention his name. He passed away about 30 years ago. Okay. I always knew he was bad. Right? He pulled the fire alarm. right? Everybody, that was a no-no.
Mhm.
That was automatic suspension, right? And my dad, I mean, he probably got a phone call. I mean, I was on punishment, so never mind even thinking about pulling a firearm, right? But this kid was bad.
Sure.
I mean, I knew before we went to troop, right? Even in elementary school, he was bad. Then we got to troop, he was bad, and he was always bad his whole life, and he eventually passed away. But the point I'm saying, I mean, don't you see signs in kids that let you know, special attention got to be done, or special handling or something?
Sure. So I'd say early intervention is key. I mean, you can't have parents acting as friends, which is what we see a lot of nowadays. The younger folks that have babies have to understand the responsibility that they bring to the table there, right?
Mhm.
They got to be there, and they got to be correcting and disciplining the child if they do something wrong. If it's something where they need extra help, there's a lot of resources that are available to them, but they can't be friends. And, something like that, if we think there's a behavior problem, we have so many programs, Clifford Beers, Yale Child Studies, that can offer services. There's things like that can really assist. And these are all charges. These are all free of charge.
Free charge.
Yeah.
And I was going to just to add, because we know it's a behavioral thing, and one of the plus, like you said, you mentioned Yale Child Studies.
Mm-hmm.
See, people don't take advantage of these opportunities that are there, because sometimes you have some parents, they have wayward children that they want help, and before they end up in trouble because of, I believe, when you're chastising your child, and some of the kids, they think they could play on that, where that the adult will get in trouble. You know what I mean? So, but my thing with this whole thing is this child, his first grade,
right?
His opportunity now to be further educated is damaging. This child, this act, he's only 6 years old. His first grade. So the rest of his education, but I thought there is some things going on in that household, because how do a 6-year-old leave out of the house with premeditated murder on their mind, and his not even developed something? I feel it's other entities that push this child.
Could be his environment,
it has to be. And the adults are not really adults, and there's not really a parenting that's going on in that atmosphere.
Oh yeah,
right. Because like I was saying, if you had a child and your child, if I left $1 on my table, right, and my son or nephew, somebody took that $1, right? It's automatically, stealing. Their lives, he didn't take it.
Right.
That's a sign right there that he's gonna start stealing, right? If you don't get
it
young, if you don't get it when they're young, or she, right, then they're gonna develop into that, right? Or just like if they start cursing or whatever when they're young, you got to get them when they're young, man. I mean, I don't care what it takes to drive it out of them.
To nip it in the bud,
You got to get them when they're young, right?
Build that foundation.
Right, because like I tell folks, even with bullies, I was one of them guys, I stopped you from the beginning. I nip it in the bud, right? We ain't starting that. Right. Nip it in the bud. It ain't going to be no keep going on and on. And that's how you do it, with a kid, man. All right, so anyway, we're speaking live. Let's get back with the process of anybody that want to be a police officer.
Sure.
The recruitment process, how that work again.
Sure. So, really, we're taking everyone we can, especially with a focus on New Haven residents. We're trying to do our best to diversify. We've made great strides in this in the last couple of classes. But what you could do is you go right online to Police App, the entry-level police officer for those folks that are not certified officers. And, you go through the process. It's a couple of months. We're trying to accelerate it, actually, because of how low we are on officers.
Is it hard? Is that a job that people just don't want or something? They're afraid or what?
So I think there's a couple of things that are against us right now. First of all, we have every police department in the state that is suffering probably 50% reductions in recruitment right now.
Okay.
And I think there's a lot of things that go with that, right? There's the danger of the policing that this new generation maybe isn't ready for or doesn't want to partake in. That's one of them. There's been a lot of pension reforms. We're in a contract negotiation right now.
Wow.
Now, I think the city's going to end up giving a reasonable contract to us, but there's a lot of uncertainty with that. So folks tend to go to places where there's a stable contract. So we're negotiating right now. I still think it'll come out to be a competitive contract.
It should.
But
it's supposed to be.
I'm hoping so. Yeah, I have faith that it will be. I have faith that it will be. So these are the things that the new millennial generation, looks at. So, those are some of the reasons why it's a little bit more challenging. Plus, we're competing with every law enforcement agency in the state right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's challenging for those reasons. But for those people that are looking for a rewarding career, a career that'll really challenge you, and you'll reflect back on and say you did some good. Policing is the one for you.
Well, like I said, I mean, it's a job. First of all, it's a job that pays the bills.
You won't go hungry, that's for sure.
And I understand, the process of any job, because just I was telling, I think I was telling my wife one day we was talking about because it was a show on television about the code, right? I said every job you got your code, right?
Oh yeah,
right. Every job you got your code, all right. I'll explain that to you. It's like when I was at work and the boss came up, said, "You see, Wayne." Well, Wayne just went to the bathroom. He might have been gone for about 20 minutes, but I'm not gonna rat on him.
Right.
So when you get back, I say, "Hey, Wayne, they're looking for you, man. Go see the boss."
Right.
I mean, so that happens in every job.
Right.
Every job.
Right.
I mean, you're gonna, that's your fellow brother.
Sure.
You're not gonna rat him out. You're not gonna rat him out, or your sister. So I mean, I wish you guys the best.
Thank you so
like
much.
I said, Dr. Wayne, you have any more questions for?
Well, just one question.
Right.
With the training opportunities and going forward, what is the opportunities? And we want to have more interaction, to with the schools, and with that recruiting process.
Sure.
Some of the things, being able to get the kids, to want to be able to want to be an officer. We know a lot of kids, in the school systems that, the young in the elementary school, they want to be firemen and police, and we know that that's the age that we really can get them on that career path and, and other opportunities. There's, definitely a need, that we plant those seeds, at that level. Just some of the things. What are some of the more with the PAL program?
Sure.
What are some things that going forward and seeing with being able to have more opportunities for the kids?
That's a great question. I agree with you. We have something called the jiu-jitsu classes.
Okay.
So our SROs, with our staffing levels, we don't have them at every school. We wish we could. But what our SROs do with Lieutenant Rosa, who runs the Westville district, they come in and kids from the city can come in and do jiu-jitsu with the SROs and with Lieutenant Rosa, and the family can come. They can watch the whole thing. And that's one of those things where we try to, break down the barriers to get kids on the right path or kids that might be interested in being police officers at some point. But what we really want to do is moving forward when we have better staffing levels is essentially have like a public safety nexus from the schools. So if you want to do dispatching, if you want to do policing, if you want to do firefighting, have like a public safety, almost like a trade school. So when you come through the process and you're coming through us, you have some of these credits already done. We already have an Explorer program.
Oh, that's great.
We already have the Explorer program. We have the Ride Along program, but we really want to expand the Jiu-Jitsu program to get kids a little bit more acclimated with the lifestyle. So, number one, they know the geography of the city. Maybe they know radio codes, and maybe they know things like de-escalation that are ever so important for us as we evolve as a profession.
Praise God.
Great.
All right.
Great.
It's a wrap, man. We had Assistant Chief David Zanelli live in the studio. I want to thank you for coming by.
Thank you so much, Dr. Green. Thank you, Dr. McCrae. Appreciate it.
Oh,
Yes,
This was great.
Yes.
Like I said, whatever we can do, as a community, we got to work together.
Absolutely. Please, everyone we're recruiting, go right on to PoliceSap, CityNewHaven.com.
But we got to work together as a community.
Yes.
As a city. You can't depend on just the police department. You got to depend on us as well to do it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I want to thank you for
appreciate
coming.
you both.
Yes, appreciate you too, Chief. And we also want to. Some of those trainings, be able to bring the camera in, and let the community see exactly, the development and to get engaged. Amen.
Absolutely. Pass on
right.
Anytime.
Well, listen.
Everyone's welcome.
The name of the show is called Action First in W.J.R.G. Internet Radio Station. So I want to thank you for taking action first today. You know, it was definitely an epic moment. You know, I tell you, we're going to have you back on. I know we want
Would love to.
to,
Anytime.
with the recruitment process, we definitely want to open up the platform more and, to have some other officers to come in.
Yeah, Sergeant Finch is the man.
Yes.
There you
Okay.
go.
So,
Oh,
yeah. We'll schedule him to come
yeah.
in at some point. So
He's a passionate guy about it.
Yes, definitely. So the only thing I could say, I want to thank you for taking action first. So can you say that with me?
Say
Action first.
All right.
All right.
W.J.R.G, your favorite choice for gospel music.